From the Arizona Daily Star and Tucson.com, this is the Wildcast.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Wildcast podcast. Justin Spears here with Michael Lev and sports editor of the Star, Ryan Finley. Big-time football game this week, guys. Arizona on the road against the 9th-ranked UCLA Bruins for what could be the last time the Wildcats played the Rose Bowl for a long time. Maybe the next time they played the Rose Bowl.
It'll be for the Rose Bowl.
It'll be for the Rose Bowl. Try telling an Arizona fan that.
No.
They've dealt with a lot of heartbreak over the years of getting close, but not playing in the Rose Bowl. We'll talk about Arizona-UCLA, everything you need to know about Saturday's game. Plus, we'll have our picks for the Pac-12 football slate for the weekend. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the Wildcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And for coverage of this Saturday's game, go to Tucson.com and the Wildcaster app. And also coverage for the fall signing period.
Absolutely. Coverage for pretty much everything. Yeah. Arizona Wildcats related. Yesterday was a sneaky busy day for us. Probably as busy a Wednesday as you're ever going to have. Between signing day, women's basketball starts Thursday night. Men's basketball, they play Friday night. It's a whole thing, man. Lots of fun.
Everything's happening right now. November. Is this from your perspective, Ryan, I've always been curious, in terms of like traffic on our website and just things going on at the Arizona Daily Star, is November the busiest month for you?
It's 2 months. It's November and March. March, you've got sort of the confluence of March Madness, spring football, UA football and UA baseball and softball. And then in February, you've got sort of, this is where football smashes up against basketball. So, it's those are the two busiest months of the year. There's also El Tour de Tucson, which is next weekend. Yeah. Thanksgiving coming up. I think I told you the other day before Thanksgiving is like my favorite day of the year because you've got football and basketball on, and all the games are important. So it's a great time to be a sports fan in Tucson.
And the Arizona men's basketball team is spending Thanksgiving in Maui, right?
So is Bruce Pascoe.
So is Bruce Pascoe. Love it.
Could be worse, yeah.
Lev, signing period, before we talk Arizona football, signing period for the baseball team. You have a story on Tucson.com. A lot of local prospects, a lot of in-state players, and looks like the Wildcats are bolstering their pitching unit.
Yes and yes. That has definitely been a theme in Arizona's recruiting under Chip Hale. They've gone pretty hard on the Arizona kids. I mean, their thought is, like, who plays better baseball than the state of Arizona these days? I mean, maybe California, maybe Florida, but it's certainly right up there. So there's a handful of kids from the Tucson area. There's, as always, a handful of kids from Phoenix. More than half the class is from the state. More than half the class are pitchers. And I think that's going to be an ongoing and continuing theme moving forward. Is the search for arms is never ending. You can never have enough. And a lot of times too, those are the guys who kind of blow up and end up getting drafted too. Yeah. So you gotta have both quantity and quality in that regard.
Yep. Baseball cliches are baseball cliches for a reason. A lot of times it's because they're true. The biggest baseball cliche of them all, Michael Lev, what you can never have too much of.
Pitching.
And I think in college baseball, it's especially true. So, no, I was encouraged when I saw that, especially some of the local guys. Cool to see Pima send a couple guys to the U of A.
Yeah.
Very neat. And, for Chip Hale, now really we start to see Chip Hale's imprint on the program. These are his guys now, right? And so, it'll be fun to watch.
I think Pima is almost becoming kind of like the AAA affiliate of Arizona baseball in a way. I mean, they've got 3 guys on the current roster who came from Pima, 2 more coming, and one of the kids, he was in high school last year, so he's signed with Arizona but playing for Pima this year. Yeah. So they're kind of using it as a feeder school, and it makes a ton of sense. That's a really successful and prosperous program. Brian Anderson is now an assistant coach over there, so there's just a lot of connections and a good relationship.
He's the most jacked assistant coach in the ACCAC, I think.
Ken Hockamy, also a really good coach too.
Yeah, I mean, former head coach in New Mexico, right?
Yeah. Or
no, that was Rich Allday. I'm sorry.
He coached in New Mexico.
He coached in New Mexico with Rich Allday, right? Yeah. No, it's and again, Jason Hockamy, people of a certain age remember Jason Hockamy, the big league pitcher, and he's their pitching coach.
Yeah. Didn't Pima in Arizona do a scrimmage recently?
Yes, they did.
A couple weeks ago?
Yeah, they did. Doubleheader at High C.
Established relationship right there, man. Love to see it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now let's talk about this Saturday's game between the Arizona Wildcats and the 9th-ranked UCLA Bruins. I feel like this is disaster in the making for Arizona because we saw last week against Utah what a really good rushing attack will do against the Wildcats. And I mean, it was rainy, it was wet, cold. So what does Utah normally do in those kind of conditions? They run the hell out of the football. And that's exactly what they did. And for the third time this season, Arizona gave up over 300 rushing yards. And so I think this week you got one of the top rushing attacks in the Pac-12. You got Zach Charbonnet coming back from injury. He's going to be rested and ready to go. And is it safe to say that this is the best running quarterback Arizona has faced all year long? And Dorian Thompson-Robinson?
Yeah, I would say so. It's either him or Bo Nix, but I would give the edge to
DTR.
DTR. I think there's more designed rushes with DTR. Bo Nix does a lot of his damage on scrambles, and he's really good at it, and he's got a ton of rushing touchdowns. I think I saw a stat that he's got the most total touchdowns accounted for of any player in FBS, Bo Nix. So, I mean, he's doing really well. But DTR, he's a fifth-year senior. He's been in the chip system for forever and ever. Nothing is new or surprising for him. He's in total command of that offense, and he's a really good athlete as well. So you have that plus, the power run of Zach Charbonnet or whoever they put in the backfield with DTR. And it's a potent combination.
Absolutely. I thought wasn't DTR recruited by Bob Toledo in like 1996?
He was actually recruited by Jed Fish.
That's right. When Jed Fish was there, that's how long he's been there. Justin, you and I think talked off air about this too. It's not as if Chip Kelly's offense is suddenly working when it wasn't before, and it's not really as if DTR is better now than he was. I just think that they've really done a good job of surrounding him with good players via the transfer portal. Yeah. This is a really old team. I'm not sure UCLA is going to be any good next year, but they have a ton of seniors and a ton of transfers. And in many ways, this is like lining up against Utah again, or like playing BYU in a bowl game. I mean, there's so much experience on there. I mean, you're asking Jacob Manu to tackle Zach Charbonnet. What's the age difference between the two of those guys?
Yeah.
4 years? 5? It's in some cases it's grown men versus young men. And that's where the difference is going to be made. And again, if I were UCLA, seeing what Utah did to Arizona, I'm running up the gut every time. I'm giving the ball to Charbonnet and saying, see how many touchdowns you can score.
Yeah.
And forcing Arizona to sort of prove that they can stop the run before you do anything else.
Where do you rank DTR among quarterbacks in the Pac-12? We actually talked about this on radio this week. For Top 5 Tuesday, we ranked top 5 quarterbacks in the conference.
I don't think he's the best quarterback in L.A., but he might be the second best quarterback in the league. Really, really like Williams at UCLA or USC. I'm sorry.
I would put. What's crazy is right now. Is it safe to say that if there's anybody in the Pac-12 that would represent the conference in New York for the Heisman Trophy ceremony, it'd probably be Bo Nix, right? But if you were to take any quarterback to would you, if you were to draft any quarterback, Caleb Williams every day of the week and twice on Sunday?
Exactly, and that's the thing, right? When we talk about best, I also think DTR. I'm not sure DTR gets some of the love that he deserves because he's been there so long. In many ways, I think you tend to take him for granted. He was just okay the first couple of years of his college career. Has really flourished the last couple seasons. Like a lot of people, I think, Justin, I've been waiting for UCLA to fall flat. And sort of week in, week out, they prove to me that they're legit. And so much of that has to do with their quarterback, who has sort of figured it out here in his final college season.
And Ryan referenced earlier how old of a team they are, and they have relied heavily on the transfer portal as a recruiting strategy in the last couple of years, and they have an incredibly good hit rate.
Yeah.
On those portal guys. The Twins, Ryan, you're kind of an
expert the most twin-ish twins I've ever seen.
Tell us about this.
No, they just look identical. I again, as a twin, I don't like being like, I can't tell them apart. But really identical looking guys. And both of them first year Bruins, correct?
That is correct. Yes, we're talking about Gabriel and Grayson Murphy,
Right.
Who came over from North Texas,
Right.
and
Where they played for Seth Luttrell.
yeah, and they're both thriving in that defense, and they're both listed at 6'3", 262. And
They're both the same height and weight.
Yes, and for those who don't know, I mean, Ryan Finley is a twin,
Right, and I have twins.
Identical twin, and
Right.
has twins. So
Identical twins. Yes.
he's about
crazy.
he's about the biggest expert you could find on twins this side of Jim Cott. So
Well played. No, but it's in Lev. You and I just talking about this. I don't know, a couple weeks ago. I asked you. I said, why do you think UCLA is pivoted to the transfer portal? And your answer was great, which is Chip Kelly doesn't like recruiting.
He's lazy.
But Chip Kelly knows that UCLA is the kind of school that can pick off good players on bad teams. I think, it probably isn't too hard to sell guys on coming to Los Angeles, donning maybe the best uniforms in the league and playing in the Rose Bowl every week, regardless of how many people are there. It's really smart. It's really smart. I'm surprised academically he can make all that work. But that's probably a different podcast.
I wouldn't say lazy. I take that back. That's a little harsh. I think maybe Chip Kelly, with his time in the NFL, is realizing, okay, I can look at all these guys on film, all these transfer portal guys. They're all experienced. I can use kind of my years of the time that I spent in the NFL, and I can kind of scout and put together a team. And you're starting to see that with UCLA.
Exactly. And, he's efficient. I think the one thing we could all agree on Chip Kelly is, Chip Kelly doesn't do a whole lot of anything he doesn't want to do. Sort of, and he doesn't tolerate any BS. And a lot of times recruiting can be BS, guys, right? I mean, it's a lot of time and energy for something that may not work. I think it's really smart to let somebody else develop players for you and then pick them off.
it's fascinating in that that's not the way we've known forever and ever.
We've been told you shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
right?
and Jed Fish has come out and said, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm going to continue to build. And I think that it kind of depends on the program.
Yes.
Like Colorado, Arizona, Washington State, Oregon State, these
Cal,
are what I would call...
I'd put Cal in that group.
Sure.
Sure.
These are developmental programs, right? You've got to bring in 3-star players and coach them up into 4- and 5-star players. I'd even put Utah in that class too. That's been their blueprint. I don't think they're going to change in that regard. They're really good at identifying talent, whereas the splashier programs like Oregon, USC, UCLA, I think they can get the headliners out of the portal, and they can rely on it a little bit more than some of those kind of what I would call mid-tier teams in the league.
I was going to say, does market matter?
Oh my God!
UCLA being in LA, being that
absolutely,
hey, you're a college team. In order to make it in this big city in Los Angeles, you got to be very successful. And if that's UCLA's niche to be successful, then that's the route that they're going to take.
Well, and let's call the transfer portal what it is. It's free agency, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Who gets free agents in the real world, in pro sports? I'll tell you who.
The Dodgers.
The Dodgers, the Yankees, the Lakers, the Knicks, the Miami Heat, right? I mean, you need to be a cool, fun place to play for people to choose to sign with you, right? The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, right? Warm weather city, lots to do near other stuff. Who's Arizona in this? Are they the Indiana Pacers? Are they the Utah Jazz? I mean, they are not the kind of program, at least they're not yet, where a guy goes, I want to go there because it looks like either a super fun place to play or a really fun place to live. I don't think 20-year-olds put Tucson necessarily at the top of their list. Jacob Cowing did.
Yeah.
But he has a child in Phoenix.
Yeah. The Murphy twins are going to undoubtedly have better NIL opportunities at UCLA than they would have had at North Texas.
Yes. And more and better than they would have in Tucson.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. To that end, by the way, UCLA has 9 high school commits for the class of 2023.
Arizona has 19.
Arizona has 19?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that puts it in perspective a little bit there.
14 of them are defensive players, in case anyone was wondering.
I think that's probably good.
Yeah.
As Rob Gronkowski said, if you play defense, please come to Arizona.
Yeah, I think more are coming. in the portal too on defense.
Well, right now, because they just added Nicholas Fernandez from San Pedro, California, who's a 6'4", 265. He can also play some tight end, too.
Cool.
He's like second on their team in receiving yards. But then they also have a couple of 6'7" edge rushers coming in. One from Oregon, Tristan Davis, I believe is his name. And then the other one is Tylen Gonzalez, who's from Carlsbad,
New Mexico. Can't see the ocean from his house.
You look, Arizona is going after athletes who might not be the most refined players. And I think that's a little bit of a shift in recruiting philosophy. Like let's take someone who's got like great athletic traits and see if we can mold them into a player. Tylen Gonzalez was off everybody's radar. Right?
He doesn't have social media.
Yeah, it doesn't have social media, plays in some small town in New Mexico, but he's a big, impressive athlete. So, it's like, let's see if we can make him into a great pass rusher or a great tight end or whatever the case might be.
I was watching San Diego State UNLV last weekend.
Of course you were.
Because who wasn't? But who was really stood out to me in that game physically was Adam Plant Jr. Do you guys remember him?
Yeah, former
U of A commit. And he's the kind of guy where, he's figured it out, right? It took 3 years, but he figured it out. He was a Vegas native. I had that thought watching him where I went, gosh, would he be Arizona's best defensive player?
Yeah, I don't think he could get into school here.
No, I know.
That's the issue at the time. But yeah.
And, it's... he has what I think you would say in baseball are loud tools, right? He looks the part and sort of figured it out. I don't know. Interesting. Lots of different ways to put together a football team. I think Chip Kelly and Jed Fish are on opposite sides of that spectrum.
All right, we'll talk Arizona-UCLA. We'll have a full game breakdown coming up later on at the end of Pac-12 picks. Real quick, guys, over-unders for Saturday's game. 250.5 rushing yards for UCLA, over/under.
Dang, I'm gonna take the over. And if that happens, that's bad news for Arizona.
Yep, over.
And it feels almost inevitable. It has to be the main thrust of their defensive game plan. And like I said, the problem is you can focus all you want on Zach Charbonnet, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson could easily pull the ball on his own read and run right around the end and go all the way for a touchdown. So I would say my game plan in this game is, hey, cornerback, safeties, we're just going to trust you. You're going to play man. You're going to be out on an island, and we're going to have 8 guys in the box the whole game and see if we can keep them under 250.5 rushing yards. But for the sake of this argument, I'm going to take the over.
Yeah, same.
Jaden DeLora passing touchdowns. Lev, you wrote about this, how Jaden has been able to clean up sloppy performances. And we saw last week, 10 for 20, 159 yards, no touchdowns. First time all season long he had a game without a passing touchdown. You can make a case that it wasn't just his worst game at Arizona, but probably the worst game of his career at Washington State, or college career in entirety. But, you look at, games where he kind of looks sloppy. Yeah, he threw for 401 yards against Cal, but had a couple of interceptions. What did he do the following week? He had 484 yards. Granted, it was Colorado, but tied Tom Tunnicliffe's record for touchdowns in a game with 6 touchdowns. And, he's had great performances this season. Hasn't
had 2 bad games in a row.
No.
So what's the number for touchdown passes?
So for touchdown passes, I'm going to do 2.5. Over, under.
I think I'm going to take the over on that one. And it might happen in garbage time.
Right. I'll take the under. Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think Arizona's going to try to. I don't know. I think that there's going to be some rushing touchdowns in there.
You might be right. I did write a whole piece, Cat Stats, this week about sort of making the case for running the ball more. I'm not sure I completely believe it, but if you're the spirit of like being on the debate team, I wrote it anyway. I put a lot of the numbers out there, and there's definitely some logic to it.
Well, and if you're trying to keep DTR off the field, there's and really Fish did a really good job of that last year. I thought last year when they knew that they were outmatched by just about everybody they played in terms of talent, he did a really good job of, for lack of a better word, holding the ball.
Yeah.
You haven't seen much of that this year.
I thought he was going to do that last week against Utah,
he didn't,
considering the conditions. And Utah, I think they were plus 15 in time of possession.
Right. Well, it helps when you fumble 7 times.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
7 fumbles, 4 lost. Third down conversions were 3 of 11 for Arizona and 8 of 12 For Utah, I think the average amount on third downs was under 5 yards for Utah. That's how you keep possession. Right. Whether you're throwing or running.
Can we get into the weeds for 15 seconds here about Delora? I thought early in the season, especially the North Dakota State game, that Delora was almost too conservative, that he was so concerned about turnovers and about cleaning up his sloppy play from San Diego State and from Mississippi State that he almost played it too safe at times. I got a little bit of that vibe last week too. Is that just playing a good defense? Is that not trying to force it? And is that a good thing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. He certainly, as far as like interceptable passes, there weren't a lot of those. Right. I think that he has become accustomed to being able to escape pressure and buy time and make stuff happen off script. And Utah would not allow that to happen. They weren't falling for those spin moves. So, I'm going to guess the focus this week with him and the coaches has been, hey, let's try to get back to first or second read, and getting the ball out of your hands a little faster. He's really good at avoiding the rush, but I just don't think that's like a sustainable formula. You can't like just do those Johnny Manziel crazy plays over and over and over again. Execute what's there, trust your guys. I don't remember there being a lot of like 50-50 ball situations, like we've become accustomed to with Singer and McMillan, where you're just kind of giving them a chance to win. Right. Maybe the conditions had something to do with that. It was pretty nasty there for a while, but I don't know. That's my take on it.
And Jaden's not, or likely won't have his kind of safety blanket or his pacifier for the short yard passes in Jacob Cowing.
TBD on that one. Yeah,
we'll see.
We'll know more.
But I'm not confident in it. But hey, if he does play, great. Get the ball out of his hands. Get to Jacob Cowing, who's known for yards after catch. But if Jacob Cowing is unable to go, maybe this is a game for Tanner McLaughlin to really stand out.
Kevin Green, I think, would likely be the slot receiver if Cowing can't go. And let me tell you, Kevin Green Jr. in practice, absolute stud.
The goods.
Super duper impressive. Whether it's this game or next year that he steps into that role, I think he's going to thrive.
Kevin Green Jr., no relation to Kevin Green, the LA Ram.
No, different spelling, different guy. But you never know these days, though. I mean, there's the juniors are out there everywhere. Like, isn't one of the top corners in the country is Joey Porter Jr.?
Jeez.
Yeah, I know. Make you feel old, Ryan.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right, how about times? By the way, Arizona's going after Brian Urlacher's kid, too. Huh. They're recruiting Brian Urlacher's kid. I'm trying to. I think his name's like Reagan Urlacher. I don't know. I don't know what his first name is. But,
okay. Where's he go to high school? Lev, you got to figure this out. He's got to be a Chicagoland guy, right?
No, he's. I think he's in Phoenix. Actually.
He's in Phoenix.
Yeah. All right. How about this?
Kennedy Urlacher.
Kennedy. Other side of the political spectrum.
Yeah, you had the wrong former president there, dude.
Taft Urlacher. Anyway.
He's out of Chandler.
Chandler. Yeah. All right. Last over under before Pac-12 picks. Times Arizona will play at the Rose Bowl beyond Saturday. 0.5.
Oh, give me the over. Come on, man.
They're playing in a Rose Bowl?
Hope springs eternal. Come on.
UCLA non-conference game. Nice little
you never know.
Pac-12 Big Ten action.
For the rest of eternity?
Yes.
I guess I'll take the over, too. You never...
30 years down the road?
Who knows what's going to happen? We don't know what place the Rose Bowl is going to have in the new playoff structure. Which is going to be expanded, be expanded again down the line. There could be neutral site games played by the Pac-12, although those would probably be at SoFi if they played in LA. But I'll take the over. I mean, gosh, 100 years from now, if the planet still exists, Arizona conceivably could play a game in the Rose Bowl Stadium again.
And here's the thing too: Arizona will want to continue to play games in Southern California even after those schools are gone. It's where their alumni base primarily lives outside of Phoenix, and it's where they want to recruit.
Yeah. Also, there's a non-zero chance that the what is it called? It's the ABOR equivalent in California.
Yeah. The UC Regents. Yeah.
UC Regents. Well, they could step in and try to block UCLA's move to the Big Ten, or Bill Walton will like tie himself to the moving trucks or lay down in the road and not allow them to drive to the Midwest. So
I want somebody
that's
to like
also possible.
embroider his poem about how UCLA is leaving for the money. Did you read that last week?
Oh yeah,
I would love that,
yeah,
like
yeah.
on like a blanket or like something I can like hang in my home.
banner.
He
A
read
banner.
it. He went on the Canzano and Wilner podcast and he read it. That was the first thing he did. He's like, why don't I just read this?
Oh man,
He read the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's like that's like getting an audiobook
I need like
and
the sound
having
of like
the
a crackling fire in the background.
Best line he had is they're the only people in the history of time to decide that there's no money in California and that the answer lies somewhere in the Midwest. I thought that was good.
Yeah, did you see the weather in Evanston this past weekend?
Yes.
Ryan Finley? Yeah,
Yes, I
enjoy
did.
that. Enjoy that, UCLA. good. Have a
Ohio
nice
State
time
didn't
there.
have much
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Now on to Pac-12 picks. The other team that's going to the Big Ten, USC, they got a Friday night game against the Colorado Buffaloes. And I've learned my lesson, and I think I'm going to...
No number is too big.
What is the number?
Minus 34, USC.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick the Trojans to win and cover. I'm thinking 52-14. Nice little 38-point win for the Trojans.
I'm going to take them also. I think Caleb Williams is probably going to like have 7 touchdown passes or something. I've covered too many of these games in the past where some sort of record was set. I think Matt Barkley threw 6 touchdown passes in Boulder. Colorado is that bad.
Yeah.
And USC is that explosive on offense. So I'm going to take them to win and cover as well.
Yeah, there's no number that is big enough that I would not take USC.
All right, next game, moving on to Saturday's slate. Arizona State at Washington State in Pullman.
Good. Okay. Good game.
I
This
like
is,
this
by the
one.
way, this is the lowest line of the week, and every game is a big home. Every game is a home favorite.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's kind of a theme. This is the smallest one. What is the number there?
Wazoo minus 8, which I think is a very tricky number.
Yeah, they could have. They did that on purpose.
Yeah.
They do these.
It's like they're trying to make money.
They know. So Trent Bourget, as we all know, Tucson native, now the starting quarterback of the Sun Devils. Washington State, they come to Tucson next week. For me, this is the ultimate Pac-12 scenario where ASU upsets Wazoo on the road, and then Washington State comes down to Tucson, plays very pissed off, and could beat Arizona in Tucson, stick it to their old buddy Jaden DeLora. I could totally see that happening, or I could see Arizona, squeaking one out against Wazoo. But we're talking about this week's game, ASU versus Washington State. ASU looked very sloppy against UCLA, but they came back. So they got some fight with Sean Aguano. You need some fight on the road. So I'm going with ASU to pull off the upset and beat the Cougars.
That's interesting. No, give me Washington State. Did you not watch Washington State Stanford?
I did, but it's also Stanford. Because
Like ASU's better than Stanford?
They didn't play Trent Bourget.
There we go. There we go.
They had Emory
Okay.
Joseph.
Okay.
Well, Stanford's kind of like in this weird position like last year with Arizona where their best player is a kicker. Arizona's best player last year was Kyle Ussendorp, right?
Right.
This year, it's their kicker. So
As we established last week.
Yeah.
Their kicker is not named Jet Toner. That was the guy who just left. Okay, go ahead.
So you're going to Washington State to
Oh,
win?
yeah,
and cover?
yeah. Like by 15. Yeah.
I am too, and I think that the scenario that Justin portrayed, the exact opposite, will occur. Washington State knows that if they win this game, they can clinch a bowl berth, and they will, and then they won't care about the Arizona game next week, just like Arizona kind of didn't care about going up to Washington State last year in the next to last game of the season and got blown out, and that will work in Arizona's favor. Nakia Watson, when he plays running back for Washington State, they are a much better team. He rushed for $166 and a touchdown last week against Stanford. They put up 52 points. Back-to-back road games for ASU. Last week's game was in Tempe. That's right. No, going up to Pullman. Again, the desert teams in those kind of conditions usually not a good mix. So I'm going to take the Cougars in this one.
All right, next game up, we got the Washington Huskies, now in the top 25. They're right at number 25, and they're visiting the 6th-ranked Oregon Ducks. And this game's in Eugene, and the Ducks are 13.5-point favorites. So who do you guys like, Oregon or Washington? Lev, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I would really love to not take all favorites this week, and I'm not going to. But in this game, I still am. What do you got? Is it 13.5?
13.5.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a low enough number for me to do it. Having watched Washington a handful of times now, they're just not that great at the line of scrimmage.
No.
Like, you saw Oregon State was moving the ball up and down the field against them, and they don't have the finishers that Oregon has. Plus, the game is at Oregon. I feel like Oregon and UCLA are the most well-rounded teams in the league, and normally, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, maybe this is a bit of a look-ahead game for Oregon, but no. Washington is a bigger rival for them than Utah is. They will be focused and ready to go. I'm going to take the Ducks to win and cover. Sure.
Our colleague John Wilner has a great story up on Tucson.com right now about how this could become the Pac-12's premier game going forward, right? With SC and UCLA gone, all of a sudden, he suggests that in future years they give both of these teams a bye before to let them get healthy, the way they do in the SEC with big games. That said, it's not much of a rivalry right now. I really like Oregon to win and cover. It is so hard to win in Eugene, and this number just does not seem nearly big enough for Washington to cover.
So I'm looking at Pac-12 defensive ratings, and Washington has the third best passing defense in the Pac-12. Oregon is second to last.
Okay.
Washington, obviously, with Michael Penix Jr., they're a very pass-happy team. So I think Washington will be competitive in this game, but like you said, it's really tough to win in Eugene. I don't care how many Huskies fans travel for this game. It's so hard to win at Oregon. So I'm going to go with Oregon to win, but I like Washington to keep it within 10 points or a touchdown.
Okay. That's fair.
All right, our next game up, we got Cal versus Oregon State.
Ooh.
And the Beavers are 14-point favorites at home. Another just weird line. I don't know.
What does Vegas know? Vegas must know something. What is it?
I think there's more respect out there for Oregon State. They're briefly in the top 25. They obviously almost beat USC at home. But then again, Cal was within a touchdown of USC on the road. I think Cal is a plucky team that plays hard all the time for Justin Wilcox. And, I mean, I could see this game being 23-17.
Okay.
Or 24-21. In which case, Oregon State's not covering. So I see a low-scoring game between two of the better defenses in the league. I'm going to take Oregon State to win, but Cal to beat the spread.
I don't know why I'm on a Cal kick lately. I like them, and I'm going to pick them to upset Oregon State here.
Oh.
Again, good. I mean, look, it's really kind of a mirror image.
Not that
matchup.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, these are both teams that play really good defense. Both teams that probably struggle a little bit offensively. Oregon State's quarterback situation always makes me a little bit nervous. I kind of never know who they have back there. Yeah, give me the Golden Bears.
Oregon State has only allowed 118 yards per game on the ground. Cal's got a pretty good rushing attack, and this game is in Corvallis. So is the plumber guy? Is it Jack Plummer?
Sure.
Will he be able to, maybe do some things with his arm? I don't think so. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. But this is really tough, and this is a brutal line. 14 points. Man, this is tough. I'll go with Oregon State to win, but Cal to cover. I'll play it safe.
Cal is 0-4 on the road, so that is something to keep in mind.
All right, Stanford versus Utah. I've learned my lesson.
Yeah.
Always pick against Colorado and Stanford the rest of the way. I'm going with Utah to win. It's a 24-point. The Utes are 24-point favorites. It won't matter. Considering how Stanford looked last week, give me the Utes to dominate. I like them to win by maybe 40 points this time around.
Yeah, I mean, mathematically, Justin and I need to go against Ryan to try to catch up in the season standings. Ryan's record against the spread is 29-24. I'm 23-30, and Justin, you're what, 22-31?
22-31.
So, by that logic, I should take Stanford, but I am absolutely not going to take Stanford. No.
I took Stanford last week. I took Stanford to win last week.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah. And, that was just complete. I just think they're just not good. No. They are not in a good place right now as a program. I don't know what the future holds for them, for David Shaw. Utah's got it rolling. Rising will be that much healthier. The running backs seem to be back. I got the Utes. in this one. It's a night game, too, up there. I think 8 o'clock local start.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be cold, and those fans are very enthusiastic. What did we call it? Did we decide it was the top 3 hardest places to play, right? Outson, Husky Stadium, and Rice Eccles?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll take the Utes.
All right, Arizona versus UCLA. Mm-hmm. The game that we were talking about all podcasts long. The Wildcats are 19.5-point dogs on the road in Pasadena. So 19.5 points. I feel like that's a lot. I initially thought maybe UCLA would be favored by like 13.5 or something like that. But no, Vegas says 19.5 is how much UCLA is going to be favored by. And you know what? I believe them. Mm-hmm. I think, after watching last week's game against Utah, a great rushing attack. I get it. Arizona put the ball on the ground 7 times, gave Utah extra possessions. But UCLA, in my personal opinion, has a better rushing attack. This is the best rushing quarterback they faced all year long. And I just see UCLA, Chip Kelly, finding a way to pull away in the second half. This is going to be a personal game for a lot of guys, right? You look at Arizona's 2022 recruiting class. A lot of them come from the Trinity League. A lot of them have starred in the UCLA's backyard, and a lot of them are going to have a contingent of fans there. So the support's going to be there. The guys are probably going to play their best ball, but I just think this is going to be a tough game for Arizona. It's so late, too. So I'm going to go with UCLA to win and cover. I'm going to go 41-20 is my final score.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm with you on that. Again, I think if we're comparing it to last week, I think UCLA is much better offensively than Utah. I think that there's a possibility to score a ton of points if you're them. And if that's the case, I'm just not sure Arizona can keep up. If I have to pick a score, give me something like 52-28. But I like the Bruins to both win and cover here.
Okay, so there's no way Arizona's going to play as poorly as it did last week offensively. It's just not going to happen. We said earlier, Jaden DeLora hasn't had 2 bad games in a row. They're going to have emphasized ball security all week long. Number 2 factor is who does UCLA play next week? And that would be the big rival, the biggest game of the year, USC. There's definitely a little bit of a little bit of a look ahead.
Okay.
So that, what will that lead to? Sloppy first half, Mm-hmm. We go to halftime, Arizona 21, UCLA 20, and we're like, oh my God, this could be an upset. And then UCLA kind of, gets its act together. Chip Kelly reams them in the halftime locker room, and they come out and play better in the second half. So I'm going to take UCLA to win, but Arizona to cover what is a very large number. I've got UCLA 41 and Arizona 31.
All right, and you can find our work on Tucson.com and the Wildcast app. We'll have coverage from Pasadena. 11 and I, we're road tripping. We're going to be out in L.A. together. We'll be at the Sierra Canyon Gardena Serra game. We'll be at the house Khalil Tate built, Lev.
I'm very hopeful that Khalil will be there.
All the Tui Halamakas will be there.
Yeah.
Khalil Tate will be there.
And then we're going to be there to see future Arizona offensive tackle Elijah Payne play. And we'll have a feature story on that. And then I have Nicholas Fernandez, the newest Arizona commit. He's joining me on ESPN Radio on Thursday, and I'm taking that interview, and I'm going to make that a bonus episode of the Wildcast podcast. So check out that standalone interview with the newest member of Arizona's 2023 recruiting class. And with that being said, that is it for this episode of the Wildcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review the Wildcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and download the free Wildcaster app wherever you get your apps.